In the final days of the Cretaceous period, when some of the most fearsome creatures to ever walk the earth ruled with tooth and claw, survival was a brutal, never-ending battle. Towering predators like the Tyrannosaurus rex stalked the ancient floodplains, leaving a trail of scarred and battered victims in their wake. Herbivores such as Triceratops and Hadrosaurs bore the evidence of this struggle-deep bite marks and shattered bones, proof of their encounters with the era's top predator. Yet, among these ancient titans, one creature stands apart. Its fossilized remains tell a strikingly different story. While so many dinosaurs show signs of vicious combat, this particular species appears to have rarely, if ever, fallen victim to the merciless jaws of a T-Rex. It was not the fastest, nor the largest, and it certainly was not the most aggressive, but it possessed something that made even the most formidable predators hesitate before attacking a nearly impenetrable defense. This was Ankylosaurus, nature's living fortress, an evolutionary masterpiece of armor and power. With its massive body encased in thick, bony plates and a tail tipped with a club so powerful it could crush bone, this dinosaur was a true tank of the prehistoric world. In an age of relentless aggression, it did not need to run or hide. Instead, it stood its ground, embodying the ultimate balance between offense and defense. The journey to uncover the secrets of this extraordinary creature began in the early 20th century, when a team of paleontologists ventured deep into the rugged landscapes of Montana's Hell Creek Formation. Among them was Barnum Brown, a pioneering scientist from the American Museum of Natural History, known for his groundbreaking discoveries including the first ever fossils of the Tyrannosaurus rex. As Brown and his team carefully sifted through layers of rock and sediment that had been undisturbed for millions of years, they stumbled upon something unlike anything they had ever seen before. Instead of the sharp claws and towering skulls typical of large theropods or the broad frills of ceratopsians, they unearthed an unusual collection of fossils-dense, armor-like plates, thick vertebrae, and blunt leaf-shaped teeth. At first, Brown was unsure of what he had found. Could these remains belong to some previously unknown species of armored dinosaur? As more fossils were unearthed across Canada and the western United States, a clearer picture began to emerge. Each new discovery reinforced the idea that this was a species built not for speed or agility, but for survival through sheer resilience. Eventually, this incredible creature was given a name that reflected its defining characteristics. The genus Ankylosaurus, meaning fused lizard, was chosen to highlight the way its bones were structurally reinforced, creating a nearly unbreakable frame. The species name, Magniventris, translates to great belly, a reference to its notably broad midsection. Together, Ankylosaurus magniventris stood as a testament to the power of evolution, a species so perfectly adapted to its environment that even the mightiest predators of the Cretaceous had to think twice before attacking. The discovery of Ankylosaurus was not just another addition to the growing list of dinosaurs, it was a revelation. It provided an unprecedented glimpse into the arms race between predator and prey, where brute force was met with unyielding defense. It was proof that survival was not just about speed or strength, but about adaptation, resilience, and the ability to withstand even the harshest challenges of the prehistoric world. And yet, despite its formidable defenses, Ankylosaurus was not invincible. As paleontologists would soon uncover, even the strongest armor had its limits. But before we explore the vulnerabilities of this living tank, we must first understand just how it functioned in its natural habitat and what made it one of the most uniquely designed creatures of its time. The painstaking process of reconstructing Ankylosaurus was like assembling an ancient three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, where each fossilized fragment brought new revelations about its biology, behavior, and place in the prehistoric world. Every piece of bone, every armor plate, every tooth added another layer to the unfolding mystery of this formidable creature. But what truly set Ankylosaurus magniventris apart was not just its heavily fortified anatomy, it was what its remains revealed about the ecosystem it inhabited. In the final days of the Cretaceous period, when some of the most fearsome creatures to ever walk the earth ruled with tooth and claw, survival was a brutal, never-ending battle. Towering predators like the Tyrannosaurus rex stalked the ancient floodplains, leaving a trail of scarred and battered victims in their wake. Herbivores such as Triceratops and Hadrosaurs bore the evidence of this struggle-deep bite marks and shattered bones, proof of their encounters with the era's top predator. Yet, among these ancient titans, one creature stands apart. Its fossilized remains tell a strikingly different story. While so many dinosaurs show signs of vicious combat, this particular species appears to have rarely, if ever, fallen victim to the merciless jaws of a T-Rex. It was not the fastest, nor the largest, and it certainly was not the most aggressive, but it possessed something that made even the most formidable predators hesitate before attacking a nearly impenetrable defense. This was Ankylosaurus, nature's living fortress, an evolutionary masterpiece of armor and power. With its massive body encased in thick, bony plates and a tail tipped with a club so powerful it could crush bone, this dinosaur was a true tank of the prehistoric world. In an age of relentless aggression, it did not need to run or hide. Instead, it stood its ground, embodying the ultimate balance between offense and defense. The journey to uncover the secrets of this extraordinary creature began in the early 20th century, when a team of paleontologists ventured deep into the rugged landscapes of Montana's Hell Creek Formation. Among them was Barnum Brown, a pioneering scientist from the American Museum of Natural History, known for his groundbreaking discoveries including the first ever fossils of the Tyrannosaurus rex. As Brown and his team carefully sifted through layers of rock and sediment that had been undisturbed for millions of years, they stumbled upon something unlike anything they had ever seen before. Instead of the sharp claws and towering skulls typical of large theropods or the broad frills of ceratopsians, they unearthed an unusual collection of fossils-dense, armor-like plates, thick vertebrae, and blunt leaf-shaped teeth. At first, Brown was unsure of what he had found. Could these remains belong to some previously unknown species of armored dinosaur? As more fossils were unearthed across Canada and the western United States, a clearer picture began to emerge. Each new discovery reinforced the idea that this was a species built not for speed or agility, but for survival through sheer resilience. Eventually, this incredible creature was given a name that reflected its defining characteristics. The genus Ankylosaurus, meaning fused lizard, was chosen to highlight the way its bones were structurally reinforced, creating a nearly unbreakable frame. The species name, Magnaventris, translates to great belly, a reference to its notably broad midsection. Together, Ankylosaurus magnaventris stood as a testament to the power of evolution, a species so perfectly adapted to its environment that even the mightiest predators of the Cretaceous had to think twice before attacking. The discovery of Ankylosaurus was not just another addition to the growing list of dinosaurs, it was a revelation. It provided an unprecedented glimpse into the arms race between predator and prey, where brute force was met with unyielding defense. It was proof that survival was not just about speed or strength, but about adaptation, resilience, and the ability to withstand even the harshest challenges of the prehistoric world. And yet, despite its formidable defenses, Ankylosaurus was not invincible. As paleontologists would soon uncover, even the strongest armor had its limits. But before we explore the vulnerabilities of this living tank, we must first understand just how it functioned in its natural habitat and what made it one of the most uniquely designed creatures of its time. The painstaking process of reconstructing Ankylosaurus was like assembling an ancient three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, where each fossilized fragment brought new revelations about its biology, behavior, and place in the prehistoric world. Every piece of bone, every armor plate, every tooth added another layer to the unfolding mystery of this formidable creature. But what truly set Ankylosaurus magnaventris apart was not just its heavily fortified anatomy, it was what its remains revealed about the ecosystem it inhabited. The fossils of Ankylosaurus were not found in isolation. They were unearthed alongside a diverse array of prehistoric plant life and the remains of other dinosaurs, painting a vivid picture of the lush environments it once roamed. These discoveries, scattered across regions of what is now North America, suggest that this armored giant thrived in dense, humid floodplains, teeming with ferns, conifers, and flowering plants, an abundant food source for a large herbivore. Over the years, advances in paleontology, including high-resolution CT scanning and chemical isotope analysis, have given scientists an unprecedented look into the life of Ankylosaurus, revealing not only its physical appearance, but also how it lived, fed, and interacted with its world. From the formidable armored plates that encased its body like medieval chainmail to the massive club at the end of its tail, Ankylosaurus was a creature that embodied nature's brilliance in designing for survival. But its discovery was not just another addition to the ever-growing roster of dinosaurs. It was groundbreaking because it redefined an entire group of prehistoric animals. Ankylosaurus was not merely a new species, it became the very foundation for the classification of an entirely unique lineage of dinosaurs, the Ankylosauria. These heavily armored plant eaters belonged to a larger dinosaur clade known as Ornithischia, a diverse group that included everything from horned ceratopsians to duck-billed hadrosaurs. But within this vast evolutionary tree, Ankylosaurus belonged to an even more specialized family one that took the concept of natural armor to an extreme. This group, known as the Ankylosaurids, was distinguished by its members' compact, heavily built bodies, triangular skulls, and the defining feature that made them truly formidable, elaborate, near impenetrable defenses. Yet, even among its well-armored relatives, Ankylosaurus stood in a league of its own. It was the largest and most heavily built of them all, a true behemoth among the ankylosaurs. Fully grown adults could reach staggering lengths of between 17 and 33 feet, or about 5.4 to 10 meters. With their broad, stocky frame standing nearly 5.5 feet, or about 1.7 meters high at the hips. But perhaps even more impressive than its dimensions was its sheer mass. These creatures weighed anywhere from 5 to 8 metric tons, making them as heavy as a modern-day elephant, and even surpassing the famously robust Triceratops in bulk. In terms of sheer body weight, Ankylosaurus rivaled some of the largest theropods of its time, including the early Spinosaurus, despite its drastically different lifestyle. This raises an interesting question. How did a dinosaur that was relatively low to the ground manage to carry such an immense amount of weight? The answer lies in the very structure of its skeleton, which was built with the precision of a masterfully engineered fortress. Imagine a living tank painstakingly designed for endurance, resilience, and defense. The bones of Ankylosaurus were uniquely dense and reinforced, forming a powerful foundation that supported not just its bulk, but also its extensive armor. Recent studies of its skeletal structure have revealed something truly remarkable. Its bones were internally strengthened with a network of struts and buttresses, similar to the engineering techniques used in modern architecture to reinforce buildings. This built-in reinforcement made Ankylosaurus incredibly resistant to impact forces, allowing it to absorb blows without suffering catastrophic damage. In essence, every part of its body was optimized for survival, from its thick, protective skull to the immense power contained in its tail. And speaking of its skull, this was not just a shield, but a marvel of evolutionary design. Shaped like a broad, flattened triangle, it was perfectly structured to endure immense pressure. While its jaw strength was not on par with the bone-crushing bite of a carnivore, it did not need to be. Ankylosaurus was not a predator, it was a specialist in consuming tough, fibrous plant material. Its teeth, though relatively small, were ridged and well adapted for slicing through vegetation, allowing it to grind down its food efficiently. Wear patterns on its teeth suggest that it had a highly specialized feeding strategy, one that likely involved stripping low-lying plants and chewing them with a steady grinding motion. Yet, despite its heavily fortified nature, Ankylosaurus was more than just an immovable wall of armor. It was an active participant in the Cretaceous ecosystem, and its very presence had ripple effects throughout its environment. But before we delve into how it defended itself against the most dangerous predators of its time, we must first explore the true power behind its most legendary weapon, the tail club. This was not just a decorative feature, it was a weapon of devastating force, capable of shattering bone and turning the tide of battle against even the most formidable attackers. What makes Ankylosaurus even more remarkable is that its adaptations went far beyond just armor. The placement of its nostrils and the complexity of its nasal passages suggest that it had not only a keen sense of smell, but also the potential for an unexpected evolutionary advantage or regulation. In simple terms, the structure of its nasal passages may have helped Ankylosaurus regulate its body temperature, much like the way certain modern animals, such as elephants and alligators, use specialized features to release excess heat. By increasing the surface area within its nasal cavities, Ankylosaurus could have cooled the air it breathed before it reached its lungs, preventing overheating in warm environments. This would have been a significant advantage, especially considering that its large body mass would have retained heat more effectively than smaller dinosaurs. But thermal regulation was only one piece of the puzzle when it came to its survival. When people think of Ankylosaurus, the first image that often comes to mind is its heavily armored body, a walking tank of the Cretaceous period. For decades, paleontologists have studied the bony plates covering its back, known as osteoderms, but recent microscopic analysis has revealed something even more fascinating. These plates were not just simple shields, they contained an intricate network of blood vessels running through them, suggesting that they served more than just a defensive role. This discovery has led scientists to believe that, much like the large vascularized plates of Stegosaurus, the armor of Ankylosaurus may have played a role in regulating body temperature. Some modern reptiles, such as crocodiles, use the blood flow in their scales to help cool down or warm up. and Ankylosaurus may have had a similar ability. This means its iconic armor may have had a dual function protecting it from predators while also helping it adapt to varying temperatures. But the real marvel lies in how these armor plates were constructed. Unlike other armored dinosaurs that had solid, dense plates, Ankylosaurus had a much more sophisticated designosteoderms with hollow undersides. At first glance, this might seem like a structural weakness, but in reality, it was an ingenious feat of natural engineering. The hollowed-out structure created a dome-like shape that distributed impact forces more effectively than solid armor could, working in a way similar to how modern motorcycle helmets absorb shock to protect riders. This unique adaptation made Ankylosaurus particularly well-equipped to withstand attacks from some of the most dangerous predators of its time, most notably Tyrannosaurus rex. The mighty T. Rex had one of the most powerful bite forces of any land predator in history, capable of crushing bones with ease. However, the specialized armor of Ankylosaurus was specifically designed to absorb and deflect such forces. Modern engineering studies have revealed even more surprising details about this defense system. Beneath its tough outer armor lay a network of densely woven collagen, fibersand organic material that, when combined with the bony plates, formed a natural composite stronger than anything found in modern-day armored animals like crocodiles or armadillos. In fact, these fibers were so thick and so well-structured that they resembled high-performance materials used in human engineering, such as fiber-reinforced plastics. Recent biomechanical simulations have confirmed that this combination of hard plates and flexible fibers made Ankylosaurus's armor incredibly efficient at dispersing energy from impact. Unlike purely rigid armor, which can crack under extreme pressure, this natural composite was capable of bending slightly to absorb force without breaking. In practical terms, this means that if a T-Rex bit down on an Ankylosaurus, the force of the attack would be distributed across the armor rather than concentrated in one spot, significantly reducing the damage. But while its armor provided an unmatched level of passive defense, Ankylosaurus was not just a dinosaur that relied on endurance alone. It had an active countermeasure, one of the most famous weapons in dinosaur history, its massive tail club. At first glance, the tail club might seem like a simple extension of its armor, but recent CT scans of fossilized tail remains have revealed an incredibly complex internal structure that optimized both strength and speed. This was not just a random bony growth, it was a highly engineered weapon, perfectly designed for delivering devastating blows to any predator that dared attack. But just how powerful was this tail club, and how exactly did Ankylosaurus use it in combat? To answer that, we need to take a closer look at the biomechanics behind one of nature's most effective prehistoric weapons. The Ankylosaurus tail club was not just a blunt instrument, it was an engineering marvel honed by millions of years of evolution. At its core, the club was formed by two massive osteoderms reinforced by a series of smaller bony structures along its length. These were not randomly placed but arranged with precision, creating a balance between weight, strength, and striking efficiency. Supporting this formidable weapon was a framework of highly specialized vertebrae which had evolved to withstand the immense stresses generated by high-speed impact. This means that every time Ankylosaurus swung its tail, its entire skeletal structure worked together to amplify the force of the strike. The sheer size and weight of the tail club were astonishing. Fossil evidence reveals that in some individuals, the club could reach up to 57 centimeters, about 22.5 inches across, and could weigh approximately 23 kilograms, or 50 pounds. But these numbers only scratch the surface of its true power. Thanks to modern biomechanical research, scientists have been able to analyze the physics behind an Ankylosaurus tail strike in remarkable detail. Advanced computer modeling has revealed that large individuals could generate impact forces exceeding 20,000 newtons. To put that into perspective, that is roughly equivalent to the force of a car crash at moderate speed, all concentrated at the end of a single swing. Even more impressive, the speed of the strike created a swing impulse of up to 4,800 newtons per second, making it one of the most powerful natural weapons ever evolved. For comparison, the average professional baseball player generates about 13 newtons per second when swinging a bat. That means the Ankylosaurus tail strike was nearly 370 times more powerful. And unlike a bat, which spreads its force across a larger surface, research using finite element analysis suggests that the impact of an Ankylosaurus tail club could be concentrated on an area just a few square centimeters wide. This precision would have multiplied its bone-crushing potential, making it a truly devastating weapon. But the tail club was only one part of what made Ankylosaurus a unique and formidable creature. Beyond its armor and weaponry, its daily life and survival strategies reveal a fascinating picture of its behavior. Although much about its lifestyle remains a mystery, fossil evidence provides some intriguing clues. Juvenile Ankylosaurus specimens tell a different story from their heavily armored adult counterparts. When young, these dinosaurs lacked the fully developed bony plates and powerful tail clubs that made adults so well defended. This meant that younger individuals were significantly more vulnerable to predators, raising an important question. How did they survive? The answer may lie in their social behavior. Fossilized trackways suggest that young Ankylosaurus individuals may have lived in protective herds, grouping together for safety much like modern herd animals do. Some scientists theorize that larger juveniles may have positioned themselves along the outer edges of the group, while the smallest and most vulnerable members stayed toward the center. This defensive strategy is strikingly similar to that of modern muskoxen, which form tight circles around their young when faced with predators. If Ankylosaurus juveniles behaved the same way, it would have given them a much higher chance of survival in a world filled with hungry carnivores. As they matured, however, their behavior appeared to shift dramatically. Unlike their younger counterparts, fully grown Ankylosaurus seemed to have been predominantly solitary. This theory is supported by fossil evidence. While juvenile trackways suggest group movement, adult specimens are rarely found together. Why the change? The answer likely lies in their armor. By the time an Ankylosaurus reached adulthood, it no longer needed the protection of a herd. Its thick, bony plating, combined with its nearly indestructible tail club, meant that it had little to fear from even the most dangerous predators of its time. With no need for safety in numbers, adult Ankylosaurus may have roamed alone, covering vast territories in search of food and shelter while avoiding direct competition with other herbivores. But did Ankylosaurus use its tail club for more than just defense? Some paleontologists believe so. It has been speculated that these powerful dinosaurs may have also used their clubs in confrontations with members of their own species, possibly for dominance disputes or mating rights. This idea is supported by observations of modern animals that possess natural weapons such as bighorn sheep, which engage in dramatic headbutting contests, or rhinoceroses, which use their horns in territorial battles. If Ankylosaurus engaged in similar behaviors, then its tail club may have played a role in intraspecific communication, essentially a way of signaling strength and dominance without necessarily resorting to full-on combat. A simple display of its club, combined with its massive body size and intimidating posture, may have been enough to deter rivals before a fight even began. However, direct evidence for this remains limited, and further fossil discoveries may one day provide a clearer answer. What we do know for certain is that Ankylosaurus thrived in a rich and dynamic environment. It lived during the late Cretaceous period, at a time when the landscapes of North America were teeming with life. Many of its fossils have been discovered in regions that would later become part of the famous Hell Creek Formationa fossil-rich site that has preserved a snapshot of the ancient world in stunning detail. But what kind of world did Ankylosaurus actually inhabit? To truly understand this incredible dinosaur, we need to step back in time and explore the ecosystem that shaped its evolution. The world of Ankylosaurus was a rich and ever-changing landscape, a patchwork of environments that provided both opportunity and challenge for survival. Unlike the barren, rocky wastelands often associated with prehistoric times, the late Cretaceous period was a time of lush greenery, towering trees, and sprawling floodplains. This was not a world of endless deserts or volcanic wastelands, but one filled with subtropical forests, winding rivers, and dense vegetation that stretched for miles. Fossilized plant remains give us valuable clues about the kind of habitats Ankylosaurus called home. The presence of abundant, low-growing vegetation suggests that these armored giants thrived in areas where food was always within reach, perfectly suited to their broad, ground-grazing bodies. Dense ferns, hardy cycads, and towering conifers made up much of the landscape, creating a world that would have looked both familiar and alien to modern eyes. The climate was significantly warmer and more humid than today, creating the ideal conditions for an explosion of plant life. Ankylosaurus was not just a passive resident of this ecosystem, it played an active role in shaping it. While it did not have the same landscape-altering impact as massive herding dinosaurs like hadrosaurs, which trampled forests and cleared paths through sheer numbers, Ankylosaurus had its own subtle influence on its environment. By selectively feeding on certain plants, it may have influenced vegetation growth in localized areas, changing the balance of plant species over time. Some researchers even speculate that Ankylosaurus could have contributed to seed dispersal, much like modern herbivores that unintentionally spread plants as they move from place to place. But life in the late Cretaceous was not without its hardships. The landscape was not a static paradise, it shifted and changed with the seasons. Fossil evidence suggests that some regions experienced alternating dry and wet seasons, drastically affecting the availability of food. During the wet season, lush vegetation may have been abundant, providing ample nourishment for Ankylosaurus. But in the drier months, food sources could have become scarce, forcing adaptations in its feeding habits. It is possible that Ankylosaurus responded to these changes by adjusting its diet, making use of whatever plant material was available. Some scientists even speculate that Ankylosaurus may have undertaken small-scale migrations, moving from one area to another in search of better food sources. This kind of seasonal movement would have helped it survive through times of scarcity, much like modern-day elephants, which travel great distances to find water and fresh grazing areas. Despite its heavy armor and seemingly slow-moving nature, Ankylosaurus was not isolated from the world around it. It shared its environment with a diverse range of prehistoric creatures, each occupying its own unique niche in the ecosystem. Towering Triceratops and massive Edmontosaurus herds roamed the same floodplains, grazing on the rich vegetation. Meanwhile, the ever-present threat of apex predators, including the infamous Tyrannosaurus rex, created a dynamic balance of power. But digestion was only part of the story. While its armor protected it from external threats, its sensory abilities were its first line of defense, allowing it to perceive danger before a predator ever got close. Ankylosaurus may have looked like a slow-moving tank, but it was a highly aware and well-adapted creature, tuned into its environment in ways we are only beginning to understand. One of its most impressive sensory features was its sense of smell. Fossil evidence reveals that the olfactory bulbs in its brain responsible for processing scent were unusually large, especially for a herbivore. This suggests that Ankylosaurus relied heavily on its nose, possibly to locate food, detect approaching predators, or even communicate with others of its kind. Studies comparing its olfactory structures to modern animals suggest that its sense of smell was on par with, or even superior to, many living reptiles and mammals. Recent advances in imaging technology have allowed paleontologists to examine Ankylosaurus skull fossils in greater detail, revealing a complex and highly intricate network of nasal passages. These winding, maze-like airways served a dual purpose. Not only did they enhance its ability to detect scents over long distances, but they also likely played a critical role in thermoregulation. By forcing air to travel through these twisting nasal chambers, Ankylosaurus may have been able to cool or warm incoming air, helping it adapt to the shifting climates of the late Cretaceous period. Vision and hearing were also crucial survival tools. While its eyes were relatively small compared to the rest of its body, their placement on the sides of its skull gave Ankylosaurus a wide field of view. This panoramic vision meant that it could detect movement from nearly every angle, making it difficult for even the most cunning predators to ambush it. A Tyrannosaurus rex, stalking in the shadows, would have found it difficult to get close without being noticed. Though direct evidence of its hearing abilities is limited, the structure of Ankylosaurus's inner ear suggests it was capable of detecting low-frequency sounds. This could have been an important adaptation for sensing the distant footsteps of approaching predators, or even for communicating through deep, resonating vocalizations with other Ankylosaurus individuals. Some scientists speculate that these low-frequency sounds could have been used as warning signals, allowing members of the species to alert one another to danger. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of Ankylosaurus's sensory abilities was how they worked in conjunction with its physical defenses. Imagine a scenario where an approaching predator, like a hungry Tyrannosaurus rex, begins its stalk. Before it can get close, Ankylosaurus picks up the scent carried on the wind. Its eyes scan the terrain, detecting movement in its wide field of vision. Then, with a subtle vibration in the ground, it picks up the distant, thunderous steps of the approaching threat. By the time the predator gets close, Ankylosaurus is already preparing its armored back toward the danger and raising its deadly tail club in warning. This combination of keen senses and powerful defenses made Ankylosaurus an incredibly specialized survivor, perfectly adapted to navigate the harsh and dangerous world of the late Cretaceous. However, despite all of its remarkable adaptations, even this well-armored dinosaur could not withstand the catastrophic event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs. Around 66 million years ago, the world of Ankylosaurus and of all the giants that ruled the land came to an abrupt and violent end. The Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, triggered by a massive asteroid impact, led to rapid climate changes, food shortages, and ecological collapse. Even creatures as well adapted as Ankylosaurus were unable to survive the aftermath. Yet, while Ankylosaurus itself disappeared, its legacy endures in our understanding of natural selection, defense mechanisms, and survival strategies. Its specialized body and finely tuned senses represent one of nature's most effective designs for defense. But what if another dinosaur took that idea even further? What if, instead of relying solely on armor for protection, A dinosaur weaponized its own body in a way that left even the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex wounded? Do not miss this next video where we uncover the story of a dinosaur that turned defense into offense.